Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Yo to Bolt fam, it's the director. Chargers fans, I think you guys are going to like today's video quite a bit because we're going to be talking about a brand new, exciting addition to the team. Rookie wide receiver Quentin Johnston, Justin Herbert, the Chargers. These guys have got to be so excited to see what this man's potential is in 2023. But like I mentioned in previous videos, it's probably good to temper expectations for any player in the NFL coming into their rookie season. Because after all, these guys are getting used to a brand new atmosphere, brand new rhythm. It's a whole new ball game when playing football at a professional level. But I'm here to tell you guys that after kind of hearing stuff of what's going on at minicamp and potentially training camp and then OTAs, I think there's a chance that Quentin Johnston does a lot better than I and maybe even a lot of other Chargers fans, NFL football analysts or whatever, are thinking even in his rookie season, because quite honestly, the table has been set. The situation looks really nice for this individual player coming into the NFL, as well as what we're starting to see in his talent. You guys see this tweet from the Chargers a couple of days ago? Yeah, it says, get used to this, Chargers fan, or get used to this Bolt fan. Look at this beautiful throw and catch. We got Quentin Johnston coming here with the body control, 2-tap. It's absolutely stunning to see what this man has been up to in the already short time we've seen in the offseason. Today, we're going to be talking about what I think the huge potential could be in a Quentin Johnston rookie season, and why I think maybe a lot of us who've been underselling it could be eating our words by the end of the season. So before we do get started, guys, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. If you guys want to get in on the best fantasy platform on the web, use code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $100. A very fun and great way to support the channel, have some fun along the way. With that, let's get into this one. Before we do, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. Small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into it. Lights, camera, action. Why Quentin Johnston could be in for a huge rookie season. And again, I'm guilty of it, as a lot of other people are. We're looking at a rookie wide receiver coming into the league. We don't want to get everybody's hype and excitement up too high, but I also want to take a realistic look at the situation, look at the player, and kind of come up with a guess as to why I think it's going to be a bit better if things turn out right than a lot of us are expecting. So the first thing I kind of want to go over is some of the chatter that we're hearing in from OTAs and minicamp. Of course, you're going to get excited about a brand new player coming onto the team. That's, a brand new weapon for Justin Herbert, a skill position. A lot of people get super stoked at, all those aspects. But word on the street is beyond that. We're seeing a lot of things from Quentin Johnston impress throughout the roster, not just the coaches, not just, fans on Twitter getting excited. Guys like Derwin James, who has the duties of covering this man during practice, has said things like, he's that guy. Him being able to get open, him being able to have the confidence to be able to go through his drills, be able to catch everything. He's finishing his runs. This is something that's very exciting to hear, right? From a Pro Bowl caliber safety in Derwin James. We've also heard a lot of praise from guys like, of course, Justin Herbert, who says he's a playmaker, he's getting open. We got very excited very early seeing what he could do as soon as he, stepped foot on the practice field. A lot of optimism, right? And again, I'm trying to pick apart, what's the optimism in terms of excitement? Because yes, it's exciting to see a 6'3", 6'4" fast wide receiver, enter the offense for the Chargers. But what also kind of leads me to believe that things are looking a little different in terms of what separates him and any other rookie wide receiver coming into their first season. Well, okay, so first off, word on the street, again, he's already starting to blossom with his chemistry and Justin Herbert. The chemistry that we've already seen that's been pre-established with him and Max Duggan, the quarterback at TCU, that's giving us a nice preview into how he'll fit in with the rest of the weapons there. But this is all around a very nice, surprising start for the rookie, okay? So very much so hitting the ground running. Looks really nice. Well, what else? What else do we have to look at? Well, we also got to take a look at the Chargers offense as a whole, which is undergoing kind of a transformation this offseason. I've talked your guys' ears off about how seriously a huge impact bringing in a Kellen Moore is going to be. And if you're living under a rock, Kellen Moore, brand new offensive coordinator for the Chargers, was the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys for the longest time, I think between 2019 and just last season. A man who's been a head coach candidate every single season for the last, I'd say, 2 or 3 years. This guy has quite the resume behind him, and he's bringing in a very nice fresh look to the Chargers offense, who desperately needed it. Of course, for the longest time, last 2 seasons, we had to run the Joe Show animation. You guys remember that? The Joe Lombardi offense wasn't doing this team any favors, and it's kind of crazy to think just how different this team's going to look now that Kellen Moore's been given the reins to the offense. Now, it seems that Kellen Moore has also been very impressed with the offense. Of course, coming from the Cowboys, that's quite the compliment. If you guys, even if you like the Cowboys, hate them, love them, whatever, they've been a very good offensive football team for quite a while now, I would say, in the era of Kellen Moore. Strong running game, as well as a lethal passing attack behind Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. That offense has been pretty impressive. Well, his head's also starting to get turned with the Chargers offense as of late, particularly because of Justin Herbert, right? And I apologize, I forget where I read this, but he mentioned that the offense is going to transform in a way where the run is going to get overhauled. Of course, that's a very important foundational piece of football. Get that balance in there. It's going to help out your passing attack a lot. But he's also mentioned the deep ball quite a bit. And I do think this is in turn because of what he's seen from a Justin Herbert. Again, nothing against Dak Prescott, okay? I think he's a good quarterback, right? Maybe not elite, but very, very good. He is a bit different than a Justin Herbert in a lot of ways. I think they are similar in some ways that you can use them, but I do think Justin Herbert is among one of the best arms in the entire NFL. When I say arms, I mean this guy can really sling it downfield, make it look almost effortless. You guys go look at the, I think it's called 77 seconds of straight fire from Justin Herbert on the Chargers Twitter page. It is really kind of crazy how effortless he makes it seem, throwing a 60-yard bomb down to Jalen Guyton. That's the kind of weapon that Kellen Moore is all of a sudden working with, and that's something that he emphasized, again, I forget where, in terms of helping the deep ball out. We want to start attacking the deep part of the field just a little bit more because he does have the cannon in a Justin Herbert arm, and now finally the speed in a Quentin Johnston, let's say also Darius Davis, to access that part of the field. So that's going to be something we see a bit more of this season, and I'm excited to see how it unfolds. And this is something, again, we haven't seen since Justin Herbert's rookie season. We had the Jalen Guyton and Tyron Johnson combo, those two guys attacking the seams, and it seems that gave Justin Herbert a lot of opportunities to sling it behind the defense and go for 20-plus yard touchdowns, in which we called the H-bomb. All right. I do expect to see a lot more of that this season. And the man with the plan that we hired for that job of getting open deep down the field was Quentin Johnston. That's a big reason why I do believe the Chargers drafted him this season. Not because he's like a lightning bolt down there. Yeah, sure, he didn't run a 4.21, but he's still very fast, having ran a 4.49. And again, that may not be impressive to a lot of Chargers fans, but I think the most important thing you have to remember about this player is that he's an expert navigating the deep part of the field. That's something that he understands how to get open in that part of the field. And that's just something that the Chargers, outside of a straight seam with Jalen Guyton, maybe something a little bit more creative with DeAndre Carter last season, we just haven't had in a long time. And while Quentin Johnston's 40 time wasn't hugely impressive, we also have to remember that his max speed was clocked at somewhere of like 22 miles an hour. I think more specifically, I have it written down here, 21.39 miles an hour. Okay, that tells a different story if you're me, the director, right? It tells me that maybe Quentin Johnston's acceleration isn't crazy. That's why his 40 wasn't great. But that also does tell me that his top speed, very much so, is top notch. Okay, so we do have the speed. He can get open downfield. That's going to be a huge element of this Kellen Moore offense that we're going to see going into this season. But let's not forget, Quentin Johnston, not just a deep threat, okay? That's not the only reason that the Chargers drafted this man. Of course, it was in the forefront of a lot of Chargers, plans in the draft. We need to get some speed on this roster. Moore said so. Staley said so. Telesco said so. We need speed. But that's not all that makes up a wide receiver. We use a lot of different examples in terms of wide receivers coming into the draft. I think none better than John Ross, where speed just isn't everything. What good is that speed if you can't put it to good use in terms of your hands and getting open? That is something that Quentin Johnston does very, very well. Again, not the top speed, but this man just flat out gets open. And that's something that's been winning the hearts and minds of Chargers players on the roster, Chargers coaches in the offseason so far in OTAs and minicamp. This man just simply gets open. That's something that I think it was Keenan Allen said about the rookie a couple of days ago, which is, again, very impressive coming from a player like Keenan Allen, whose whole pretty much persona is getting open in the NFL level. Now, again, not just a deep threat in talking about a Quentin Johnston. Johnston, again, he's been showing that he's more than just a field stretcher. His route running, honestly, has looked stupendous. You guys remember that clip that we played at the top of the video? Yeah, this is pretty awesome. I can't quite see what he's running. It just kind of looks like a post or maybe an out route here, but he does that crisply. Great body control, able to keep that those toes inbounds. That is something that you like to see coming in from, a rookie wide receiver that maybe offers you more than just accessing a deeper part of the field. No, all of a sudden, we're looking at an additional option for Justin Herbert to get open, which is pretty deadly when you already have a roster consisting of, let's say, a Mike Williams, who's starting to run more routes like that, and then, of course, Keenan Allen, who's been the guy with the plan getting open for a long time here. So that is something to take in consideration, that he's not just going to be called out there to run those seams, to run those go routes. He is going to be out there, I would say, a lot of times, kind of like what was his name for the Saints? Michael Thomas. Okay, yes, you'll see some slants every now and then, like a Michael Thomas a little bit. But again, I just see this man getting much more involved than we think in terms of attacking the short and intermediate part of the field as possible. Because again, he has shown that body control. He has shown that route running. He has shown the use of his hands. One of the biggest things that Chargers fans and analysts and everybody were giving him crap for was the fact that he didn't catch with his hands. We're seeing a lot more of that. And honestly, I think it's because Justin Herbert is much better at leading the football than, let's say, a Max Duggan was at TCU. Being able to have the kind of power that's required to get enough, distance underneath the ball between him and Quentin Johnston is also something that keeps the football in front of this player. We're seeing a lot more use of the hands there. Looks very, very nice. He's getting open, right? And that's something that I think if you're any quarterback, if you're any offensive coordinator, it's going to get your attention, right? Offensive coordinators are going to want to get this man more involved because, again, not just the size and speed that are both very impressive, but he's starting to get open even underneath. And if you're a quarterback like Justin Herbert, I mean, boy, howdy. Seeing a target of that size get open right in front of your face, let's say he plays a little bit in the slot, let's say he plays a little bit underneath, you're going to be able to find this man very easy if he is beating his coverage, okay? So that is something to take into consideration. Now, for you Chargers fans in the comments that I inevitably are going to be asking, Director, how do you think he's going to do in his rookie season? Maybe some fantasy football players out there like, Director, what kind of numbers we talking for Quentin Johnston in 2023? Well, I first wanted to kind of open this up with... I have been skeptical, right? I've been skeptical in terms of Quentin Johnston putting up monster numbers in his rookie season, just because, again, the situation, at least on the surface, dictates that he's going to be lower on the depth chart behind guys like a Mike Williams, a Keenan Allen, maybe even a Josh Palmer in some phases, and an Austin Eckler. Are the targets going to be there? But the biggest thing that's always, kind of pushed me down a little bit in terms of like getting people's hopes too high is the fact that he is a rookie wide receiver, right? And I don't know if the position really bothers me so much, or I should say holds so much weight, as much as just being a rookie, plain and simple, right? Being a brand new player coming into the pros, it takes some time to get adjusted. And in the case of Quentin Johnston, I want to give him the liberty to kind of get his feet underneath him in the pros as well. But there's something that I honestly kind of woke up with, not even a revelation this morning, just a thought this morning, that in terms of rookies, at least in the modern day NFL era, not even that, this is the past, let's say 5 seasons, rookies at the wide receiver position have just been built different. I don't know if it's the way the NFL is bringing them into the league lately. I don't know if it's how offenses have evolved, but wide receivers, if you were to pick any position in the last 5 years, really have impressed right out of the gate, even in their rookie season. You take examples like, let's say, a DK Metcalf, his rookie season, 900 yards, 7 touchdowns. Devonta Smith, his rookie season, 916 yards, 5 touchdowns. Again, maybe not crazy numbers, but that's pretty dang good for a first first-year receiver. Then you got the big dogs like Jalen Waddle, right? 1,015 yards, 7 touchdowns in his first year. Very impressive, especially behind a Tua-led offense, right? You got a big guy in Justin Jefferson, who at the time broke the record, 1,400 yards, 7 touchdowns. That was a monster season. And then maybe the best rookie season we've ever seen in a wide receiver in Jamar Chase at 1,455 yards and 13 touchdowns. These guys are starting to fly out the gate more often than not, right? The wide receivers, for whatever reason, are implementing into the NFL and integrating into the NFL a lot smoother, a lot quicker, and a lot more effectively. It just feels like this position has an edge, right? They have an edge coming into the pros. And another big player that I wanted to highlight in their rookie season, even like maybe at the start of this, when we first started seeing a lot of wide receivers kind of flood in their rookie seasons, was CeeDee Lamb, right? Who came in with a respectable 935 yards, 7 touchdowns. Again, that's very, very good for your rookie season. It just so happens as well with this guy that why we're highlighting him is because, of course, at the time, his offensive coordinator was Kellen Moore, right? Now the offensive coordinator for the Chargers. Is this a kind of a preview, a CeeDee Lamb, which you can say the Chargers may have plans to use very similarly in a Quentin Johnston? You can use both Quentin Johnston and CeeDee Lamb in very similar ways. Could this be a preview of what the Chargers fans should expect from a Quentin Johnston rookie season? Almost 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns. I think that would make a lot of us very, very happy. Now, there might be some people that are skeptical in the comments, like, hey, director, not even 1,000 yards for the rookie in his first season. Why are we talking about this being a huge rookie year for QJ? Well, first off, let's go ahead and look at the circumstances for CeeDee Lamb real quick, right? Let's not forget that Dak Prescott was hurt, I think, at least half of CeeDee Lamb's rookie season. And despite having Andy Dalton for like 9 games, CeeDee still almost put up 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns. It's a very nice touchdown ratio with those numbers as well. Okay. Now, what about target sharing, director? Of course, that's the other big thing that you were talking about. You're going to have Quentin Johnston out there competing for, targets with a Keenan Allen, the target king, a Mike Williams, a jump ball king, a Josh Palmer, who's been very nice coming into his first couple of seasons. Then you got the other speedsters like Guyton and Darius Davis. How can we possibly be predicting a huge season for QJ if there's already so many other targets out there on the field? Well, let's go ahead and look at the offense for the Cowboys again. Back in that time of CeeDee Lamb's rookie season, right? CeeDee was also sharing targets with Amari Cooper at the time, right? Who was their wide receiver 1. And also Michael Gallup, which is kind of a yin-yang thing we're looking at all of a sudden, right? Amari Cooper, you can kind of look at as a Keenan Allen, and then a Michael Gallup, kind of that, possession receiver, kind of like a Mike Williams. And on top of that, they also had the emergence of a Dalton Schultz at tight end. Despite that, CeeDee Lamb still put up almost 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns in the Kellen Moore offense, right? I kind of expect the same thing this year for Quentin in the Chargers offense. I would expect Quentin Johnston to absorb, I would say, a huge amount of targets that were once spread throughout the depth chart, right? You guys remember last season, boy howdy. Okay, a lot of injuries kind of led to this situation, but even despite that, Justin Herbert is an animal. This man led 6 different receivers to over 500 yards in 2022. Absolutely ludicrous. And this included guys like DeAndre Carter, Gerald Everett. Justin Herbert spreads the ball around. Again, a lot of that has to do with injuries, but that being the case, that's a lot of targets spread throughout everywhere, right? The entire roster. I think that's going to tighten up a little bit this season, right? Because again, now we have the depth, but we also have the talent. And I do think the pecking order right now is in favor of a Quentin Johnston. I think if you're to ask me like right now, like, hey, director, if you're looking at a Justin Herbert reads, or you're looking at, a pecking order in terms of who's going to be, getting a lot of targets, I would say right now it's probably Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler, and then Quentin Johnston. So 4. But we also have to remember what's happening to this offense this offseason. Kellen Moore, right? We're implementing some changes. And in those changes, I think, again, Kellen Moore is going to want to start pushing the ball downfield a little bit more, which is in favor of Quentin Johnston. He's going to want to improve the run a little bit more, which I do think is going to siphon a little bit of Eckler's target share. So I would guess that Quentin moves into, let's say, Austin Eckler's spot as the 3rd option for Justin Herbert, at least in the pecking order of targets. And I do think that's rightfully so. You want your wide receivers to be playing the role of a receiver in that way. And again, I don't think that's going to mean that, like Austin Eckler is going to get, deleted from this offense, nowhere near. But I do think that the targets are going to come down because now you have a receiver that's probably going to get open at the receiving position, right? And we're going to see a lot more opportunity for Justin Herbert to push the ball downfield rather than take those checkdowns that we've seen for very many seasons now under Joe Lombardi. No more. We've got Kellen Moore. He's going to want to push the ball downfield. It's going to come behind a powerful running attack, which I think is going to help Austin Eckler in terms of boosting his numbers on the ground, but as well as a deep attack too in terms of the air, and that's going to help Quentin Johnston out quite a bit. And with Quentin's competition for targets, let's say outside of Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, only being guys like our running back and Austin Eckler, tight end Gerald Everett, which the Chargers did not invest in this offseason. So I wouldn't expect Gerald Everett to have too much of a bigger season than he did last year. Very respectable season. But again, that leaves targets on the table for Quentin Johnston, and then maybe even a Josh Palmer, right, in terms of targets. I think we see more targets for Quentin Johnston in his rookie season than even I had anticipated. Okay, and that again has a lot to do with Justin Herbert having options that can get open. It also has a lot to do with a situation that unfolds when you have that much talent at wide receiver. This next segment is actually called 3 deep cornerback, right? Three cornerbacks deep. This is where things kind of start getting excited for me, right? In terms of what the potential could be in Quentin's first season. So we already know his talent, right? Quentin, he's been able to work the entire, length of the field. He's got a beast at quarterback that can access every level of the field. We know that he's gonna have targets in his rookie season. What kind of targets are we talking about, right? Well, when you're on a team that boasts Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, these two of the best wide receivers in all of football as your top dogs, opponents are obviously going to have to prioritize those two dudes with their defensive resources. And what I mean by that is you'll likely see a team's cornerback 1 and 2 keeping their hands full trying to cover Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, right? Your 2 top dogs. Where does that leave Quentin Johnston, right? That's pretty much with whoever's left. Your cornerback 3. Okay, there's really only 2 teams, or I should say defenses, on our schedule that I think are going to have the depth in order to really impact a Quentin Johnston, right? Those 2, I think, are going to be the Patriots with Christian Gonzalez, Jack Jones, and Jonathan Jones. The Ravens with Rocky Ya-Sin, Marlon Humphrey, and Kyle Hamilton, who I do know plays a lot of nickel. And then maybe the Jets, right? You can kind of sneak them in there with Sauce, DJ Reed, and Michael Carter. I think outside of that, I don't think there's a team on our schedule that has enough talent in terms of corners to contain all 3 of these guys. And if you're prioritizing your best corners versus the Chargers' best receivers, it would go firstly Keenan Allen, then Mike Williams, and then Quentin Johnston. Quentin Johnston's going to be left with those cornerback 3s a lot, right? I can see QJ being faced up with the guys a majority of his rookie season like this, right? Nick Needham, Sean Murphy-Bunting, Duke Shelley of the Raiders, I think, Jalen Watson, right? These are depth guys, cornerback 3s, because your best corners must respect Keenan and Mike. This leaves Quentin Johnston with a nice opportunity to capitalize on, let's say, lesser talent and coverage for him throughout the season. And this will leave the season wide open for QJ, right, to really ease himself into the pros against a much softer set of opposing DBs. That's quite the opportunity. Sure, again, these are NFL players, right? These corners, they're NFL caliber players. And sure, Quentin Johnston is a rookie. We have to keep that in mind. But he was also drafted in the first for a reason. And he also had these surrounding circumstances for a reason, right? Given his impressive surrounding circumstances that we've been listing here, it's impossible not to stack an almost weekly favored matchup in his favor as well, right? That's another benefit to the 2023 season for QJ. That's pretty insane, right? And as we mentioned, QJ's getting open all over the field. He's not just going to be your deep guy. He's getting open. And if he can beat that cornerback 3 consistently, I think Herbert's going to find him 9 out of 10 times. And that's why I think he's going to have more targets than we all think. The opportunity is going to be there because I feel like he's going to be giving himself the opportunity by getting open. And that opportunity may be more fruitful because of the coverage that he's going to be facing on a weekly basis. Okay? Now, to help wrap up this video, a couple different points. One thing that Chargers fans ask me a lot, is this the end of Josh Palmer? No. Yes, but no, for now, okay? And this is what I mean by that. Don't get me wrong. we'll get some nice looks at Josh Palmer this season, right? But the roster is very top-heavy at the position right now. So his opportunities may be a bit limited in 2023. We should still see some of Josh Palmer, but maybe not as much as last year when he had to step in with injuries. However, the Chargers, they need only monitor his situation right now, right? Make sure he's still running solid, because we already saw a big sample size of his talent last year. We know what he is as a player. He's very good. And I think that kind of speaks to him being our future at the position. Our future slot, perhaps? I do think so. But no, this is not the end of Josh Palmer. Josh Palmer, I think, is very much so going to be involved in the future plans for the Chargers at wide receiver. And that brings up one of my final biggest points of this video, grooming the future, okay? I really hate to bring this up, Bolt fam. I get a lot of flack when I do, but it's such a valid point, it's impossible to dance around this, okay? Grooming the future. Mike Williams is going to be hitting for a massive, $32 million next season, right? That's so much. You guys can see that right here. That's so much. Keenan Allen is going to be hitting for a massive, I think it's $34 million. It's a lot of money being allotted to just these two players at the wide receiver position. And this opens up a situation for the Chargers at wide receiver going forward. They're going to have to make an extremely difficult decision in 2024, guys. A sacrifice, if you will. Do we keep Mike? Do we keep Keenan? Or in a bleak world, do we cut both because of money? The cap situation is very real, guys, and the Chargers are probably wise to start preparing for that right now. Because let's be honest, in the future, let's say in 2024, the wide receiver position could very realistically look like this. Wide receiver 1, Quentin Johnston. Wide receiver 2, Josh Palmer / slot. Wide receiver 3, Darius Davis. Insert the next guy there, who knows? And that, again, has a lot to do with money. The Chargers, they're going to need to get a healthy sample from the TCU receivers, in my opinion, in Johnston and Davis, to help shape their decision next season. Cutting Keenan and Mike, just to kind of give you guys an idea of this, would save a whopping $43 million just next season. And with the Chargers having, contracts like Justin Herbert's coming up, you're going to have to start thinking about this. You're going to have the foresight of what are you doing at receiver if you have to cut some of the best talent in the NFL due to money. Who do you have stepping into those shoes? Well, for to start things off, it's going to be Quentin Johnston. But the question going forward is, who is it going to be? Mike, Keenan, or both? It's going to be tough next year. But till then, I do have to remind you guys, we're going to have this one magical season called the 2023 Magical Season at receiver. This season, it's going to be insanely fun to watch for the wide receiver position for the Chargers. Because, again, the competition is real, right? Wide receiver 1, 2, and 3. These guys are all going to be competing for targets. The depth is insane because behind these guys, you got Josh Palmer, Darius Davis, Jalen Guyton. It looks pretty good out there. And Justin Herbert is already on a roll, right? We already know the talent he's going to be bringing behind the brand new offense of Kellen Moore, bringing a fresh element to the offense, and Herbert providing, top-tier, talent at quarterback, now having top-tier talent at receiver. I think a 5,000-yard season is on the horizon again for Justin Herbert. And I think each one of these guys has something to prove. I think if I were to guess, Justin Herbert could be one of the very few quarterbacks in NFL history to boast a 3 wide receiver 1,000-yard season. I think that's pretty unlikely. I do think if anybody sees a bit less in terms of receiving yards, it's probably going to be Mike Williams. But I do think that Quentin Johnston is very much so capable of hitting a 1,000-yard season. So finally, I know a lot of people might even skip to this part of the video. What do you guys think Quentin Johnston is going to post in his first season with the Chargers? I'm going to answer that question for you guys right now. I know that's probably what a lot of you guys came here to see. Director, what do you think? What do you think Quentin Johnston's going to do in his rookie season? Well, I'm going to go out on a limb here for you guys, okay? I have a feeling that Quentin, and again, this is something that differs from my opinion even a month ago, and a lot has happened since then. I think Quentin Johnston is definitely looking at least 100 targets this season, all right? Dare I say, or rather guess, I'll throw out a number, okay? Spitballing 112 targets. Okay, not spitballing because I did the math here. 112 targets for Quentin Johnston. Of those targets, I think he catches around 68%, right? Which gives him around 76 catches. If he averages the same yards per catch that he did in college, we're talking, a whopping 19.7 yards per reception. That would translate to 1,500 yards in his rookie season. Wow, director, that's a crazy year. Yeah, it's going to be a huge rookie season. Well, let's hold our horses. I don't think it's going to be quite that big. I don't think it's going to be quite that impressive, but I also don't think it's going to be a huge drop-off either. I would guess in the pros, maybe, especially behind Kellen Moore in the situation, the coverage, all that kind of stuff, I would say I'm feeling around 14.5 yards on average, right, per reception. And that would put him at 1,102 yards on the season in his rookie year. In terms of touchdowns, who knows? I'll throw out a number. I'll say 8, right? 8 touchdowns, which would be a massive, massive season for any rookie wide receiver. And is that reasonable? I would say so, right? I don't think we're being too optimistic with that projection. This would put him in range of guys like Chris Olave last season and Garrett Wilson in their rookie years. I think Quentin Johnston, in his situation, absolutely dictates that that's certainly possible. And even though it's not in monstrous range like Chase, Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson, it's still a really huge start for any rookie wide receiver, especially one for the Chargers, who already have 2 very good receivers ahead of Quentin Johnston. This is a very, very nice situation. But it also sets up Quentin Johnston to be the Chargers wide receiver 1 going forward in the future. And honestly, it feels that that's going to happen a lot sooner than later. So if you're a fantasy football player, if you're a Chargers fan wondering which jersey you want to get next, consider Quentin Johnston. Because I do think very, very soon, he's going to be given a lot of responsibility at receiver for this team. I think he could be wide receiver 2, if not 1, within the next couple of seasons due to the money. I think he's going to be, and due to his talent and his situation, I think he's going to put up. I think he really, really is going to be a very fun player for the Chargers and its fans to watch for very many seasons. I think he's been put in a very good situation, and it's going to be a very fun, in particular, 2023 season for Chargers to watch their rookie receiver kind of go ham, okay? So what do you guys think in the comment section below? I'm very optimistic. I get that. But again, it's impossible not to look at all the evidence, look at his surrounding circumstances, and say this guy isn't set up for a pretty strong season to open up his NFL career. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you liked what you saw here, hit us up with a like and sub on your way back or on your way out. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up and stay frosty. 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns. That is a solid, solid start to any wide receiver at the NFL level.